Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire, and this is the Maverick Do It Different podcast. And this is where we think different, be different, do different, create difference in our world to create a different world for you, for me, and for our whole community. This is the Maverick universe. This is where it happens. Today, I've got somebody special who's, well, gonna maybe change some things in how you experience that world and how you might approach it from this point forward. This person's a global impact strategist, the founder of Gain the Edge. Jim is known as the personal development and business coaching world as the go-to guy, all things sales. Highly important in this day and age. He is the master collaborator whose purpose is to help entrepreneurs leverage the power of collaboration, key to scale their business so that they can impact the world the way they intended. Jim is known for instilling into his sales team, and I want to talk to you about this. It's not what you say, it's who you are being when you say it. Please welcome to the podcast, Jim Padilla. Welcome. It is a pleasure to see you, buddy. How's it going?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to the conversation.
So right off the bat, this whole idea, it's not what you say. And so what happened to the whole concept of scripting, sales scripts? I've memorized those for the last 36 years being in sales. And now you're telling me that that's not important. It's just about who you are being. Explain.
Yes. Well, I'm never here to poo-poo on scripts. They have their place. The biggest challenge is, you ever been in a situation, I guarantee this has happened to you as a leader. You're speaking from stage or coaching somebody and you say something magnificent and the person says, wait, can you say that again? And you're like, I don't even know what I just said. What are you talking about? Right? It just came out of you. Yeah. Right. And it's like, even if I were to rewind the last 30 seconds and give you my words, it would never work for you that way. It's not about what I said. It's about who I'm being. So I tell people all the time, do your best to capture my mindset, my perspective, my energy, and then put your words to it. Because you know your people better than I do. So you know the right words to say. Sometimes you're just not saying them the right way. Right.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of the concept that our communication is only 7% words,
right?
Everything else is that intonation, that physiology.
And all of that, it's interesting because we hear that all the time, right? And I put one word around it and it's just believability, right? Are you believable with what you say? Because people are buying you before they're buying anything else that you're saying or selling or doing. And so you have to show up confident, clear, certain, because when people buy that, they're moving.
Oh, but man, now that's the hard part, right? Like now you want me to actually change who I am. Just give me the script.
Go for it. You can say this 100 times a day and hopefully somebody will buy from you if that's your concern. And please use the script, but no script can ever account for every scenario. No script can ever lead you to a place where this is the perfect outcome. When you're dealing in a world with billions of people and they all have different varieties, sizes, shapes, and colors, there's literally nothing you're going to say that's going to work for everybody. So just focus on being the best possible version of yourself, who's going to show up as the confident, certain, clear leader that they need, the person who can deliver the outcome, and then let the words fall. Because when you're in that space, you should be, if I have to tell you how to be you, then you're not really being you.
So how do I know it? So there are two things that come up for me. How do I know that I'm being me? And then what does that look like? How do I become more me, if you will?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you're gonna operate from a script, then the script should be more prompts than directives, right? It shouldn't be say this. It should be, here's what you're trying to achieve at this point of the conversation. Right. And then you do that in a way that comes naturally. Right here, you're trying to elicit empathy. Right here, you're trying to show credibility. Right here, you're trying to show, you're trying to really help them understand that there's a problem to be solved. Right. And so then that can give, if I say, Paul, how are you going to help this person understand there's a problem to be solved? You should have some question or some scenario that you can paint for them.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, it's so fascinating because this is not being taught. I've been in sales. I started 36 years ago in sales, straight commission sales, and this is the reading between the lines that they kind of allude to, but they never quite tell you. In
Right.
all the scripting, all the sales training I've had for 36 years, with the understanding that no matter how much you script, there's going to be a new scenario, a new person in front of you. And what do you do with that?
Right. You know, and that's where you have to default to you. As you know, I could put you in front of your children and you don't need a script because you know what they need, you know what's best for them, you know how to communicate with them, you know what are the parameters and the outcomes, the intended outcomes of the interaction, right? And you just need to take these same skill sets to your stage, to the live event, to the podcast, et cetera. What is the outcome you want to affect for people? You know, we used to do monthly workshops before COVID. We used to do them here in Sacramento, and we get about 100 people a month, whatever. And we, when they came in, we always had them put on their name tag what was their verb. And the verb is when you interact with somebody, you want them to feel, think, or do something different. What is that? Right? And when people interact with me, I want them to feel powerful, empowered, enacted. I want them to, so that means everything I do around people is to show them that they can overcome anything, that there's a high side of every opportunity, right? So what's your verb? Because that's what we do. We either attract people, we repel people, we make them happy, we make them sad, we piss them off, we do all those things. So you might as well do it with some intention.
Indeed. And so in everything that you do, this isn't simply how to enter into a sales arena. This is how to enter into every conversation.
Right.
So where do I begin in that process? Is there a step-by-step process? Where do I start?
You know, it's interesting because it's been so long since I've worked with new entrepreneurs. We primarily work with 6 and 7 and beyond, entrepreneurs now. There's a lot of people who can teach in a far more instructional way than I can to an elementary student. However, at the end of the day, you have to be really clear on, again, what is it that you're trying to affect for people? What is it that they need to know about themselves? What is it that they need to know about you in order to decide that they should be engaging you? Right? What's the problem they need to be crystal clear that exists, and not just be aware, but the problem that they're committed to solving, and that they know that now's the time to solve it, right? And how can you articulate that? And then what is it they need to know about you? I'm good at this, what I do. Am I world class at what I do? Am I figuring this out? Because all of those are good things. There's plenty of people who will buy from me when I'm trying to figure it out because I've already invested some money and I'm further down the road. You don't have to be world-class expert to be able to sell yourself. So just understand, what do they need to know about you and what do they need to know about themselves in order to determine this is a great conversation. And it's interesting because I don't do a lot of sales training. Our company does, but I'm more deal making and trying to acquire companies and stuff now. But here's the thing that I would give to everybody. You and I can't get away with this because we are sales experts. But for 99% of you out there trying to figure this out, take this perspective and take this line. Tell everybody you get into a conversation with, say, I'm world-class at solving this problem. I'm just not world-class at selling it. So please give me a little grace. And watch people's empathy explode.
Yes.
Right? Because they're going to go, oh, Paul, you're doing great, man. Don't worry. You're good. You're good. I got you. And all of a sudden they're actually rooting for you to win.
I love that line. I used to call that the rookie technique.
Right.
And I used that for years, a version of that where I just said, listen, I'm brand new. I don't know what to do with this. What can you tell me what this does? I was in the medical and dental fields. So a lot of complex stuff. And I walked in going, I have no idea. And I started when I first started, but that worked for me for like 10 years. Like, hey, I don't know what this is. Can you tell me what you would use this for? Is this any good? And they would sell it to me. And very similar in that regard is that they will take ownership of the sales process.
Yeah. Well, what we're really doing here is we're trying to break down the walls of barriers. Because when we show up to talk to people, whether they show up at an event or in a one-on-one conversation, most people are, whether they do it physically or not, they're giving you some version of, I don't want to buy your shit. Get out of my wallet, leave me alone. Or they're like, okay, dance monkey, what do you got for me? Right? They're giving you something. And so while that's happening, they're not engaging you. They're not actually engaging in the process. You're not there. There's not a it's not a two-way communication. So you're spending all your time trying to break down those walls. So the best thing you can do is provide as much simplicity and transparency right from the beginning to let them know that you are here for them and that you're on their side. And these are things that I learned. I grew up in an abusive environment. I was in foster care at 13 and on the streets and gangs as a teenager and in jail by 19. And I used to get the crap beat out of me as a kid. And I literally spent every waking day, Paul, thinking about how do I go home and influence my mother not to want to hurt me? Then when I was in foster care, how do I set myself up so that I'm an ally? When I was in gangs, how do I become an asset to everybody around me so they don't want to hurt me? When I get into jail, how can I be the guy that everybody leans my way and says, he's our guy? Right. And so I spent all of my time mastering how do I influence people like that so that we can break down those barriers and they could see me as an ally instead of a threat. And then all of a sudden, influence just happens. It's the byproduct.
It's so interesting. And the underlying topic that you and I could spend hours on is what develops some of the people that you and I are. And I had a similar, my background in my childhood carved the person that I am today. And it was everything to do with, there was no clear communication in my household. There was abuse going on in the household, and I had to figure out how to communicate or read between the lines. And it's the same type of thing that the environment carved out my greatest superpower. And that then became the thing that I then developed into a life and a career and a profession that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah. It was the greatest gift I ever got. Best thing that God ever allowed to happen to me. Right. Because it also it's helped me to see that everything is possible and everything's overcomable. And it's also given me an incredible gift of not, I can be the ultimate advocate for somebody who is ready to give up because what they're in the middle of is extremely overcomable. They just can't see it. Right. And so that's how I lead my team. That's how we serve our clients. That's everything. And
hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a key component of perseverance, of staying the course and realizing that every single person that's listening can do whatever they can imagine. And when they need we all need a team and we need assistance and we need people around us that see it for us and or with us. And we can be those people, and you are a stand for all that.
Yeah, and totally. And I fancy myself an opportunity maker, and it's something I'm always been on the lookout for opportunities. And because I have a high pain tolerance and threshold, things don't tend to knock me over. When I see things coming, I'm not the guy who circles the wagons. I'm the guy who leans in and says, where can I solve? And, we're literally working right now to create a movement of opportunity makers. I'm launching a podcast, Opportunity Makers, which I'd love to interview you on. And it's all about people who are world changers at scale. And the focus of it is to bring hope to a very confused world right now, they see all these problems and they don't know what to do. They're full of fear, doubt, anxiety. They're circling the wagons. They're running for cover. And that is the ultimate opportunity for the leaders to step in, for you to step in, for you who listening, say, hey, how can I find all of these opportunities that are raining, all these problems that are raining down are just opportunities waiting to be taken advantage of.
Yes. We have a lot in common in that regard. And absolutely, I'm right there with you. You need an advocate, want an advocate with everything you're doing. Just ring the phone.
For sure.
Right there with you. You talk about being and I want to change some some direction here just a little bit to ask you, so who is your perfect clientele, if you will? If we could bring the perfect person to the doorstep that would engage with you on a business level, who would that be?
It's we have two separate avatars, but our primary focus is somebody who is 7 figures and above, or very serious about achieving that mark, who is an expert selling services and not products. We focus on people who are really selling the invisible, selling a future outcome of some kind,
Right.
and who is extremely serious that this is the time for a hockey stick curve kind of growth.
Yeah, I
So
love that. So many people focus in on, well, they have the money to engage in the marketing, or they got the money to engage in something. And for me, it's never been about that. You give me strong desire and we can paint the world.
yeah,
And that's who you're looking for. Yeah.
very much so. Yeah, it's a lot of it is about the when, not even so much the who, right? It's when you're at that trigger event, you know that you've got something that must be brought to the market, or we've had clients who come to us because they're ready to scale to an exit, or they're ready to go public, or they're ready for they're launching some SaaS platform, so they need this side of the business to just explode and take care of itself, right? So it's that when, what's that trigger event that says I'm ready for something massive and big, and I need a partner to help me get it.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, very exciting. So with that, you talk about the power of collaboration to scale. I want to talk about what is the power of collaboration? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, partnership is one of our core values. One thing I learned at a very young age is that you can't do anything on your own. And so I've always been the guy who I remember reading a book by A.P. Giannini, or about A.P. Giannini, as a kid, and he talked about being the master of the guy. He said, I would never, ever want 100% of one man's efforts. I always want 1% of 100 men. That way you're always going to be in a position of growth and you never get taken out, right? And that just made sense to me as a kid. And I've done everything that way. Everything from when I was dealing drugs to, winning, sales competitions in school, selling Scholastic magazines.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
It's all the same things. Right. And so I have always learned that the power, we partner with sales experts because we do done for you sales. Well, we have a network of 500 salespeople that work with us, and we give them opportunity. They are our partners in fulfilling for our clients. We partner with our clients to deliver an extreme outcome for their clients. Right. When we're working with an event, we partner with the event, not with the expert. If we were working with you on an event, Paul, we wouldn't be partnering with you. Our whole objective was, how do we collaborate with the event so that if the event wins, everybody wins, right? Where's the partner, the right partners in every opportunity? And there's always somebody who can help you do it better. I read a book, The Business Secrets from the Bible, and it's by a rabbi, I forget his name, but he talks about the Jewish community and how everybody in the Jewish community spends their time just doing the thing they do best and encouraging and supporting their community to do everything else. He said, you won't go to a Jewish community and find a homeowner mowing his lawn and working on his car, because he hires the other people in the neighborhood to do those things so that everybody is achieving their best and living their best life.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And for me, I mean, all I hear is, delegation, and do what you do best and delegate the rest.
Right. Yeah. And, but part of ownership, part of partnership is also understanding that there's no such thing. I don't understand or resonate with a 50-50 partnership. The true partnership is 100-100, which means today I may have to get your back to the point where you can't do anything else. And tomorrow you may have to get mine. But if we're both focused on 100-100, that means we're always over delivering to each other. Whereas most people think, like the whole win-win philosophy, I have a problem with that, because there's two people aren't equal. You and I are not equal. I'm better than you at some things. You're better than me in some things. In order for us to do win-win, to me, that means somebody has to deliver less.
Oh my gosh.
What if I just show up to say, I'm going to give you my best, regardless of what you give me today, and I'm going to trust that you're going to do the same for me?
It's the only way. And for all of you that are listening, you are listening to major gems for success. Doesn't matter what businesses you're talking about, what industry you're talking about, or what you might think we are engaged with, I got to tell you, these are the cornerstone of success, because everybody that I know that has gone the distance has had this methodology of belief system, and which is what I would call it, the belief system of you get into a relationship and you simply do your best. You simply deliver 100%. And that whole concept, man, it was foreign before. After COVID, oh my gosh, this is like non-existent.
Yeah.
And to be the leaders, to be the ones that forge the new world, this is how we have to show up.
You do. And it's just an extension of service. I mean, Jesus was the best example, right? He lived to serve. He washed the apostles' feet. He said, I'm the most high, and the most high goes to the most low to serve. And we all have to be willing and able to do that. Too many times we get into positions of status and we go, well, I can't give my time away to those guys. My time is worth too much. Well, it's like, to whom? You know, I've had millionaires and billionaires who, when I've texted, they've responded when I had literally nothing to offer them, but they knew they could help me.
Yeah.
Right. And now I do the same in return.
So a couple ways that shows up, and give some examples of that, because one is the idea that you don't put a price tag on everything that you're doing. You decide on a 10,000 foot view, how your money exchange is going to happen. But then when you're in the moment, you just do.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's, I learned this from Kevin Harrington. We've done a few different projects together, and, I've been very blessed. We've generated, hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients. So we've been in a lot of environments. And I'll be honest, man, when I first started doing this work, I was so enamored with my clients. I was like, I'll do anything you want. Like, I don't want you to do anything you want. I want me to do what's going to work.
Right.
Right. You're the expert. That's why we hired you. And so maybe they knew more about business and more about life than me. But in this one little sliver of the universe, I'm the expert. And I was there to help them with that. And we have to be able to show up and say, I'm going to give everything I got to deliver this. I'm not going to measure this based on what you paid me. I'm going to measure this based on what I can deliver. And we have to deliver the best possible outcome, which then ensures that they are going to get what's necessary. And, without going over, but you can't go broke doing this stuff. So, don't just throw stuff to the wind, but be very, very clear to over deliver in value, not necessarily in content and goods. Make sure they understand what this partnership is about and what is the measurement of a win for everybody.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was doing speaker support, and we've talked about doing events. So I ran a whole lot of speakers events, and in going to the event, there would be so many people would be like, well, are you going to be around? If you're a speaker at the event, I don't want you just coming in and out. I was like, no, why would I do that? I'm here 100%. I show up. I'm the first one here. I'm the last one to leave. You had me. And and sometimes you look at, oh, well, is that the highest and best use? It doesn't matter. It was what I dedicated to.
Yeah. See if this resonates with you. Here's a statement that I say all the time. I think one of the biggest challenges in salespeople for sure, but definitely I see it in entrepreneurs also. Too many times we're measuring the ROI of our time with a stopwatch instead of with a calendar. If somebody said, what's one of the biggest secrets to me winning, and all of them, 7, 8, 9-figure clients that we work with, it's people who understand the ROI that is measured with a calendar versus the stopwatch. If you're measuring stop time and ROI with a stopwatch, you are very transactional in nature, and you'll never grow to where you need to.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So powerful. And that I find that even in micro moments, like I remember in so many of the sales events, there's sales moments. And so you have these great one-on-one conversations. And in the one-on-one conversations, you're supposed to, within a short period of time, get them to a closing document, if you will,
Right.
and a closing moment. And I was always the one that took the longest with all my clients. And I had people around me complaining, but I was also always the one that converted the most number of people but also was connected with the most number of people. And it was so fascinating. I was always like, your sales are lower. Maybe you need to stop critiquing and pay attention to what I'm actually doing. Because I'm focused in on the person and the moment, not on just how to get to the finish line the fastest.
Think about this if you're, when you're listening or watching here, is if you are a person who knows that, let's say, as an example, you should be following up with your pipeline. And I know some of you are going, pipeline? What's a pipeline? But that's a problem in and of itself, conversation for another day. But it's because you're too busy, right? Like, I don't have the time for that. I don't have the time for that. That's a symptom of you being very transactional in your nature and measuring, putting it overly valuing the value of your own time.
Yes.
Right. Because I promise you that if you, like we tell people, our clients all the time who hire us, you might find other companies who will make more sales for you today. You won't find anybody who will make more sales for you over time, because we make sure that people are treated so well as an extension of your brand that they stick around long enough to buy tomorrow if they don't buy today.
Love that.
Right.
Yeah. So for all of you listening, as we talk about business, and we've been mapping a whole lot of different layers of what it means to be successful. One of the things that Jim just brought to bear is the understanding that there's a strategic play over time that you can design on purpose. And it's one of the things that Jim is a specialist in and an expert in, is designing that game plan over time that guarantees success. And that is something that so few businesses pay attention to. They end up spattering pieces of their business together, just kind of throwing it into the pot and making a great goulash, but never quite paying attention to each piece to make it perfect.
I'll give, here's another example. I mentioned before we started here that, we're at a place where we're starting to acquire companies now. And what we're doing, we're really focusing on consulting and advising. And we're putting operators in place in all of our business networks. And we've made a commitment that we are always going to take the smaller share of the revenue from our operators, because we're playing the long game. I don't need to win this today. Right. He might have a better year than me this year, but because we're so well diversified and we're streamlining that over time, they're getting the lion's share of it. So their effort will always be greater, and they will always do what they can to ensure the win. And then we're here to support that and make sure that happens. I could easily flip those deals and we take the bigger lion's share, but then now I'm also responsible to ensure that engine is rolling, and they may not be as incentivized to want the bigger picture. Right. So you just always look at the big picture first. And then, yes, you have to make money today. We get that. So we're never compromised. We're not saying don't make any money today. We're saying don't focus all of your money on today, because 90% of the money you're ever going to make is beyond today.
Right. Oh, beautiful. As someone who has been an entrepreneur now for 36 years, I fully appreciate all that you're talking about, because it does not happen overnight, and it is a strategic plan to create a sustainable, scalable business that succeeds day in and day out. And Amen. That is what you are all about, Jim. Really appreciate you. Love that you've been here and spending your time today. Thank you so much. With all the listeners, we've gone coast to coast and around the world. Last minute thoughts and words of wisdom to the Maverick universe.
Maverick universe, see yourself as the solution, and know that somewhere out there are people who are literally praying for what you do for them, and you may be the only person who can bring them a solution. So you have to get yourself visible and be found. Do not dispense with perfect, dispense with any desire to show up in a specific way other than to be the best version of you. Just show up, be seen, be found, and let these people follow you and be able to, get the solutions that you provide.
Show up, be seen, be found. Jim, where can they find you?
If you go to my personal site at jimp360.com, Jimp like Padilla, maverick360.com. It's my personal website. All my social medias are there. You find out a lot of stuff about me. What I want you to do is give you an invitation. There's a contact button there. Click on contact, find the text button, which is the first one. Shoot me a text. Tell me you heard me on the Maverick Do It Better podcast and say, I want the anti-closer system. And I'll shoot you a system that we have that will help you bring in salespeople, put a system in place that will prevent the need for top tier closers and be able to help you deliver a system that any salesperson can sell in.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Jim. It's an absolute pleasure. Jim Padilla is here. Gain the edge and go to jimp360.com to grab hold of all his contact information. You want to go and find him and create magic with him. This has been a delight. Thank you so much. For all of you that are out here, please continue sharing and making sure that this message does not stop here, that we get known throughout the world, because so much is happening now in the world that these messages can be the difference in people's lives and in all of our future. Thank you so much for that. Make sure that you find me on Facebook and Instagram. Reach out to us. Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire, the Mavericks Do It Different podcast. We are everywhere. Pay attention to next week's episode of Mavericks Do It Different podcast as well, where we continue these great conversations. Thank you so much. Our universe is expanding and you are a part of it. Be sure to continue listening. This is Paul Finck. This is the Mavericks Do It Different podcast. Till next time.
Thanks for being here today. As our gift to you, be sure to go to themaverickuniverse.com where you can download your free copy of the Maverick Manifesto. Until next time, dare to be different. Dare to be a Maverick.